so we can get this going. Excited to have the Maine offense staff on here. Had a couple of these guys on already and did a tremendous job, clinicking about their different stuff. Appreciate all the work you guys are doing to help us out with this. You guys have been awesome. Sure, just like us, you guys are anxious to get going with you guys, and hopefully this has been a good way for you guys to kill a little time in the process here. But we'll go around. If you guys could just introduce yourself and just a quick deal about your background and where you've been, that would be awesome. So Pat, we'll start with you up there in the corner.
Yep. Hey guys, Pat Deneke, assistant head coach, run game coordinator, and offensive line coach. Going into year 5 at the University of Maine, I got here in 2016 as the tight ends coach. Was promoted offensive line coach in 2018. Before this, I was a GA out at University of Nevada for 3 years, where I first met Coach Waters and Coach Garrigan. And my first job in 2010 when I graduated was at Bethany College down in West Virginia. So been around a little bit, but Maine's by far my longest tenure, and excited to get back to normal hopefully soon.
Awesome. Coach Waters?
Yeah, how we doing, guys? I'm Mikael Waters, tight end coach, going into my second season here. I got here the day before fall camp, or actually the day of fall camp this year, so I hit the ground running. It's been fun so far, but before here I was a receiver coach at Augustana University in South Dakota, and then I GA'd at Hawaii for 2 years with Coach Garrigan. And then I was a student assistant coach with Coach Deneke and Coach at University of Nevada for a couple of years as an undergrad.
Awesome, Coach. Coach Garrigan?
I mean, they basically told you my background with those. McDonough Garrigan, second year running back coach at Maine. Prior to that, 3 years at the University of Hawaii, 2 as a GA, 1 as a quality control. And then before that, I was a student assistant for 2 years at the University of Nevada, and then GA'd for 1 season. But yeah, thanks for having me again, guys. Appreciate it.
Did you ever get to meet June Jones out there?
Yeah, we met June once or twice.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Coach Dresser, how about you?
What's up, guys? Back again. This will be my 3rd year at the University of Maine. Came here in 2018. When we went to the Final Four, promoted to the offensive coordinator. This is my 3rd year here. Prior to Maine, I was at Pace University down in New York as the offensive coordinator for a year. Prior to that, I was at Merrimack College for 4 years outside of Boston. Did the Massachusetts training. Before that, I was in Worcester, Massachusetts at WPI. And then before that, I was at Union College up in Schenectady, New York for 2 years after I graduated there. But excited to be in Maine, and hopefully we get back to here doing some football pretty soon.
And Kevin, how about you?
How's it going, guys? Kevin Falaki. I'm a offensive quality control coach at the University of Maine. Just entering my first year. I just finished playing in the fall. Blake used to play tight end under Coach Waters. Originally played 4 years at Assumption College in Worcester, Massachusetts. Then decided to do my master's up here at Maine. Really fell in love with the program. All the coaches on the staff have been really good with me. They recruited me, and I've always just had a passion for X's and O's, and just really enjoyed the game plan, all that goes into it. And I'm really excited to just start the new adventure and get into coaching. So appreciate you guys having me.
Awesome, folks. Appreciate having you guys on. I want to start with some game planning talk and just kind of go around the horn. And if each one of you could talk a little bit about what your role in the game planning process is, and then also what do you do with your guys during the week in terms of meeting and film watch and things like that to get ready. So start with Pat with the O-line.
Yeah, game plan wise, I'm in charge of all the run game. So usually Sunday nights, my big time to watch the next opponent's games. I'm gonna buzz as many games as I can get through. Usually early in the season, I'll watch all of them as we get into week 11 and 12, at least the second half of the season. And then Monday, I'll start on formations. We usually get together as the staff, mid-morning-ish, 8, 9 o'clock on Monday. So I'll try and have all the base down formations watched by then. So I have some thoughts sketched out so we can have conversations before as we watch as a group. So by the end of Monday night, I tried to have the base run game done. We'll end up cutting some stuff during the week, but pretty much everything will be in by the end of Monday night. I meet with my centers on Monday night. The good thing for me is our top 5 centers are 5 of our top 6 linemen. So it gives them a head start. We're going to go over any adjustments, anything that's a little different or unique for the week. So it's not the first time they're hearing it Tuesday morning when we meet before we go out to practice. And then also, on top of our normal meeting time on Tuesday, we get back together Tuesday night to watch the practice film so we can go right ahead and talking about our third down plan on Wednesday. So we'll do base downs Tuesday, third down Wednesday, and red zone on Thursday, and then a review of all in our Friday walkthrough. Along with the run game, Coach Drez and I, along with Coach Charlton, who's obviously heavily involved as a play caller, we have a lot of conversation about matching protections and actions, and they have a route concept. What's the best protection to use out of certain formations, and what actions are we going to carry for that week? So that's a big part of our discussions Monday afternoon into Monday night as we're finalizing the game plan for in the practice script for Tuesday.
Awesome, Coach. Go over to Coach Waters next in terms of the prep for the tight ends and your work for the week. What does that look like?
Yeah, so the one of the big things that myself and Coach Garrigan handle are the opponent breaking down their defense, kind of seeing how they're trying to attack us, and then creating our scouting reports. And then as a whole offensive staff, kind of like Coach Denicky was saying, we sit in there and we watch cut-ups together, and Coach Dresner does a phenomenal job of letting everyone have some input. So, I'm more of a passing background guy, so I try to throw in some passing game stuff, and I'll work very closely, obviously, with Coach Denicky talking run game throughout the week. In terms of the tight ends, kind of like Coach Denicky said, my guys will come in at different times, and Kevin can touch on it too because he experienced it firsthand. But my guys will come in at different times, and we'll watch different cut-ups. We'll watch coverages, fronts, any type of pressures for protection stuff. One thing I like to do in terms of meeting is put together a cut-up of similar concepts we're going to run. So Coach Garrigan will go through and label if different opponents are running counter, power against the team we're going to play, and I'll put up that cut up so these guys can kind of see how these guys are attacking them and see all that fun type of stuff and talk technique. But my first year was kind of learning the offense and then trying to input as much as I can. I think going into this next year, I'll definitely be a little more involved in the game plan, especially when it comes to Coach Denicky and the run game.
Awesome, Coach. Coach Garrigan, how about you with the running backs?
Yeah, to piggyback off of Coach Waters right there, obviously we're heavily involved in the breakdowns, but in terms of watching the cut-ups and things like that, I think I have my values really showing the defensive perspective. Being my first time as position coach on the offense side of the ball, sometimes I see things that some of the other coaches don't. And then in terms of the run scheme, I work heavily with Coach Denicky. He's the mastermind behind it, but we talk and we figure out what's best for the run scheme, and same with the protections. What we have to change up, the tweaks that we have to make. But yeah, like Coach Waters had mentioned, my first time on offense in the system, there was a lot of learning going on this season. So I'm really excited moving forward into the fall to really have a grasp of the whole offense instead of really just focusing on that running back group or the protections or the run scheme. Yeah.
What's it look like for meetings and film watch for you guys for the week with the running back position?
That's good. Similar to what Coach Denicky had mentioned. So Tuesdays are our base day. So our cut-ups are, top fronts, stunts, coverages, and they're really talking about their personnel in their base looks. Wednesdays, third down, cut-ups, again, tendencies, when's their breaking point, do they pressure on early downs, third and medium, third and long, when is it coming? And then talking about their packages on third down as well, knowing their personnel once they get in those situations. Then the red zone, similar, are they pressuring on the fringe? Are we getting closer? Are they pressuring? Are they playing softer coverage? What I tell my guys, especially in protection, is we never want to be caught off guard, right? We want to anticipate and eliminate. So that's really it. But I think what I like best about how we break it down is on Friday, I give out a game plan what I call a game plan sheet. And it's really just the tips and reminders from everything we've gone over throughout the week, and including in that. So it's, hey, they go to bed that night, they look over the tips and reminders, and there's some questions on there, but it's nothing that's going to trick the guys. It's really to build confidence. It's to say, hey, you know, I know exactly what I'm doing. And then that Saturday morning after breakfast, we always do a walkthrough. And during that walkthrough, we go through the entire play call sheet for that day. And so my guys know, okay, in a third short situation, these are the 4 or 5 calls that I know we're going to get. Or, hey, third and long, you know, Fitz knows, hey, I'm probably going to be in on this because we're going to be in protection or some type of protection, something like that. So they are 100%, you know, aware of the situations moving forward, and then so they're prepared and extremely confident for that day. I think that's the best thing we did.
Awesome, Coach. Kevin, I'm going to slide over to you before I get to Coach Drez. Just talk about your role with quality control and what that looks like during the week.
Yeah, so you know, in the spring, basically, Coach Waters and Coach Garrigan have really just you know, take me under their wing a little bit, teach me how to break down film, what to look for in terms of, you know, concepts, you know, difference between RPO and just a straight up run concept, stuff like that. And you know, it's just been really interesting to learn like how much really goes into, you know, certain aspects. But where, you know, from a player, I was just, you know, I was man on here. I was just taking care of this one. Whereas actually, there's just so much more going on. Just to learn all that, it's been really cool. And then you know, they've just been teaching me different breakdowns and stuff. And you know, playing tight end, obviously, I had a foot in both you know, both camps, kind of being a blocker, being a pass catcher as well. So it's just been really cool to just kind of, you know, see a little bit more from you know, see a little more from the passing aspect and learn different concepts that way. So.
What about as a player? What is it like to go through like a college game plan for the week? Like, is it, you know, it's a little overwhelming, or they just do a good job of breaking it down, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so you know, Coach, you know, I think our coaches really here do a, you know, really great job. We get the scouting report every week at the beginning of the week, and there's really rarely any time during the year where, you know, we hit game day and we see something for the first time, or we're confused, or, you know, even times when, you know, we didn't play our best, sometimes we'd go back and look at the film and they did exactly what we thought we were going to do. You know, we just didn't execute at different times, but they do a really great job preparing us, keeping us ready, keeping us, you know, on task, and then understanding the different looks that we're going to get, different looks that we could get. I mean, there's sometimes when, no lie, we'd look at those scouting reports and there'd be a 2% thing on there, and we'd see it, you know, 5, 6, 7 times in a game, and because it was on there, we knew it was coming. You know, where other places, you know, I know being an assumption, we didn't do that, you know, stuff like that, we didn't, you know, key on as much, whereas these guys really, they don't leave any stone unturned. So.
Right answer, Kevin.
There you go. Coach Drez, you want to take us through a little bit about your, you know, role, what your week kind of looks like, you know, what you're doing with the quarterbacks, that sort of stuff?
Yep. So really, you know, kind of at the beginning of the week, like we said, we kind of branch off for a little bit, and that's Sunday after we've broken, you know, the previous game and we put that to bed. We spend a little time on our own, just kind of watching games, and basically making a few notes and making a few cut-ups on some things that might be unique to the week that I'll pull aside and make sure that either the quarterbacks see them before we get to practice, or if that's a Monday morning meeting where, hey, you know, it is a quarters-based team, but, you know, these are some of the things that we might not have seen the past 2 weeks that are new. So just pulling the nuances for the defense that week, getting together as a staff, watching those games at night, maybe putting some Sunday night football on as well in the middle, just so to keep ourselves sane. But I think the biggest thing that I help do is after we come up with a plan on Tuesday with our run plan, is making sure we got our pass plan that kind of complements that. You know, if we're running a lot of 3-by-1 inside zone, well, let's make sure we have 3-by-1 drop back pass, or maybe a 3-by-1 play action pass, so that, you know, the kids can learn it that way, and we have some different looks off of some of the same formations, so that they're it's a good balance, so that we're not a one-trick pony out of one formation. So matching all those things up, and then like Coach Garrigan says, and we harp on this all the time, I mean, we have at least 1, maybe 2 walkthroughs before practice every single time we get on the field. Coach Zenicky does it on the field for 10 minutes. We do it as a skill group together. We walk through the skellies. We walk through the team pass plays before they actually happen. And is it always 100% execute at that point? Not always, but it gives ourselves the best chance to have a great practice. So organizing those walkthroughs, making sure they're sharp and they're clean, keeping the guys' attention, keeping them 15 minutes, 12, 15 minutes or less, and then going out and kind of executing that. You know, quarterback's very similar to the center. We do meet on Mondays before our first practice on Tuesday. It's a late meeting, probably 8 o'clock. Once we're done, we feel, pretty confident with our first and second down game plan, where those guys will come in and ideally we'll have a script for Tuesday of what the practice is going to look like. And just, again, with those nuanced clips for the week, hey, take a picture of these. This is what we're looking at. And here are the plays that we're thinking that we're going to need to rep, on Tuesday. And maybe there's some carryover. And I think that's the other thing that we talk about once we get halfway into the season is, hey, what are some of the things that we can carry over from week to week that might have fit week 2 that we didn't see from week 3 and week 4, but might be really good week 5. It cuts down some of the practice time. Can't rep everything, but some of those things that we pulled from week 2 or 3 to week 6 ended up being really good for us, even if they were special plays or gadget plays or drop back pass that we had repped a ton that week. We can pull those back in. Those fit really good into the plan for that particular week. And the quarterbacks need their reps, and so they also need to know which reps they get. And obviously, as a starter, he knows what he gets, but making sure that each guy gets an idea of how many reps they're going to get for the week, so they can feel confident, executing their part of the plan, by the end of the week.
Awesome. I'm going to come right back to you for this one. And then, Pat, I'm going to kind of come to you at it from a run game perspective. But when you're prepping up your pass game, Coach Retzer, and you click on film of another team, what do you initially, look other than, base coverage? Like, what are some key things that you're looking for in an opponent as you develop your game plan in the pass game?
Yeah, I think, if it's purely drop back pass, which, when you go back and you watch our tape, really, when Joe took over as quarterback, you didn't see a whole lot of drop back pass from us. What you saw was a lot of actions. You saw a lot of movement plays where we can kind of get him out of the pocket, or really influence using his ability to ride the running back. So when we're putting together those actions, we're seeing who is that extra element in the defense for this particular week that we need to influence. Maybe it's it's an invert team. It's really always based on the 1 high, 2 high. That's always key for us to figure that out beginning of the week. But where is that 7th guy that they're trying to bring, that's going to be a problem for us? And that's the guy we focus on. If it's a rover, okay, maybe that's where the RPOs happen this week. Or if it's a free safety, maybe we want to hit over the top with bends. So that's kind of how we start organizing that. And after the run game gets, put together, that's when we start to figure out the actions that best suit those types of throws that week. Third down is where we'll see our, most of our drop back, which, we got our man beaters. What are our best 3 to 5 man beaters for the week? Can we motion them differently? Can we formation them? And then maybe we'll put 1 to 2 new pass plays that nobody has ever seen before that we can rep that week. That might be good on third down, but that's really primarily for now. And maybe this will change this year where we got into our drop back pass. Primarily the rest of the stuff was run pass option or play action.
Awesome. Pat, what about you with the run game? Same deal. When you click another team on and you watch the tape of them, what are you trying to build, your game plan around when you watch other teams?
It's when we're watching on Sunday, we're trying to figure out what the defense wants to be. Are they 4 down, 3 down, over, under? Are they field and boundary based or strength based? Like Drez said, where is the 7th defender? Where is the unblockable in each formation? So we're trying to figure out, what are their pressure tells? Are they a shade or a G? Are they a loose 5 or a tight 5? Where do we have leverage? So those are the things. I'm just trying to get a feel for their defense. What are their tendencies and what gets them out of their tendencies? How do they adjust to 3-by-1? How do they adjust to spread sets, detach, no tight ends? Where can we find an advantage in the box, and where can we get the leverage that we want to run the football?
Awesome. Coach Waters is going to come over to you next. I want to talk a little bit about tight end play. Obviously, as you well know, the tight end, especially in the age of the spread offense, has a lot of responsibilities to carry out in terms of, being part of the run game and the blocking schemes, lining up on the line, off the line, maybe in the backfield as an H-back. They're lined up in different spots, and they're part of the pass game. So, what does their practice time look like for the week? How do you budget that so that they're prepared for the game in terms of what you do in your indie and group thirds?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a Great question. And I tell these guys, and Kev can tell you, we used to talk about the tight end position is such a fun position because you get to live in both worlds, kind of like you were just saying. But the way I like to look at it is if we played a 100-play game, if we were just moving up and down the field and we got 100 snaps on offense, how would our run percentage to pass percentage break down? In my mind, how our offense operates and how we call the game is I would say 55% run, 35% pass, and then the other 10% we're in protection. So that's kind of how I like to split up the terms of focusing on each aspect. When it comes to the run game, it really depends on what we're trying to focus on that week, whether it's game plan or in fall camp, what we're doing. If we're playing a team and we're going to be a heavy counter power week, my drill work will focus on pulls or down blocks for power, So Tuesdays, our practice days, is my heavy run day. That's when I'll get with Coach Denicky and we'll work with combos with the tackles and the O-line. I'll also focus on any type of specific run game stuff that we'll do. We'll always do a little bit of pass game stuff on Tuesdays. We'll get with the quarterbacks for maybe 5 minutes too, just to throw some routes on there. And I'll use that time to coach the routes as much as I can, route depth, the crispness of the routes, all things like that. Wednesdays for us is a little more pass heavy, down situations, things like that. So then that's when I'll focus more on the pass game. When I break it down to the pass game, I really focus on releases. If you can't release, the whole timing of the routes off. So that's the one thing that will always work at some point is releases, and then I'll always work the top of the route. The middle stuff in the route, like I said, I'll work routes on air. I'll fix all that stuff. But the top of the route, creating separation and all that stuff. And then in terms of protection, like I said, is a small part. We'll probably be in the protection 10 to 12 times a game. For the most part, that stuff is just recognizing on where we have to pick up and who we're responsible for. So that's more of kind of a walkthrough type tempo, talking through it. Every once in a while, we'll work some drill work, just getting their feet moving, making sure on the gap seal hinge that they're not going to get beat over the edge. So.
The other thing we do, Coach, is that before in our walkthrough pre-practice on Tuesday and Wednesday, the tight ends and the O-line, along with the running backs, we'll get one of the third or fourth QB who's not involved in the skelly walk, and we're going to walk through every pressure we see that day, so that it's not the first time they're not seeing it for the first time. We want to overemphasize the communication at a controlled tempo so that they can see it, and then once we get to it full speed, we can really execute and not waste reps.
The other thing too. Go ahead, Coach Weiss.
Yep, and then on Thursdays we kind of wrap up anything that we need to retouch or those guys need extra work on. And kind of piggybacking off pre-practice with Coach Denicky is, I'll get those guys out there 10 minutes in pre-practice, and for 5 of those minutes, we'll always work zone steps just to keep those guys' steps fresh, thinking to have crisp technique. And then I'll always have them catch balls for minutes. We never can catch enough balls in practice. So we're always working, catching balls pre-practice, whether they're high, low, behind, back, shoulder, all that stuff.
The tight end position it's so hard to find a coach that's dedicated to that position. In college, we get it a lot in the FCS and the FBS, but I know where I've been in Division II and Division III, there is no tight end coach. He works with the offensive line or he goes with the receivers. If you have a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", can put on some weight, and you have the time to work with him and actually teach him how to be a tight end, that's a gold mine. I mean, we try to find these guys. We were lucky to find Kevin last year, but there are not enough of these guys rolling around out there with training, specific training in high school that are ready to play. But it's a unique position. I know if I was 6'3" back in the day, that's what I would have played. But I mean, I just think to have a guy that's dedicated to that position is, we have a good group right now of guys that are all going to play. So I mean, it's good to have that if you can.
Don't let Coach Dress fool you. If he was 5'6" or 6'6", he'd still try to sling the rock.
Potentially.
That's probably true. I'll just say from my perspective, I've had 2 6'5" tight ends for the last, they've been in my lineup for their 4-year starters. And
yep.
The thought of calling plays without those guys, next fall isn't awesome, but it certainly makes a difference when you got guys that can do some different things and and move them around a little bit, and they can catch some and they can block some. It's just a world of difference in terms of being a play caller for sure.
Yeah.
Coach Waters, want to get you to expand on just one thing, if you could, with some technique talk about releases. I know that's something that, we tried to work hard with our guys on. A lot of guys are trying to jam up our ends, a lot, when they're attached to the line of scrimmage. So what are you teaching those guys? What are your coaching points on releases?
Yeah, so we'll do a couple different things. A couple of the main points that I like to focus on is obviously pad level. A lot of times these guys like to stand up straight out of their 3-point stance or 2-point stance. So we'll focus on pad level. I'll get the shoot sometimes and make those guys release through that. The other big thing is your hands. We'll do a lot of hand fighting. You see the DNs train their hand fighting all the time, and the D linemen will do the same type of, I call them kung fu hand type drills. But we're striking. We'll work a chop. We'll work a rip. We'll work a swim and punch. But a lot of the time, my main focus is we don't strike our hands unless they try to contact. If they're not going to try strike their hands and contact us, we got a clean release. Our pad level just goes in your chest. I'm big on whatever way you're going. So if I'm releasing inside, I'm protecting with my outside arm to kind of cross and block off my chest, vice versa, and with my inside arm to block my chest. Because, the moment you get jammed up in your chest plate, the route timing and the quarterback timing is all off. So the releases for us is a lot of hand fighting, working the pressure points, the wrist and the elbow, striking the defenders there, and then just staying our pad level low and not exposing our chest.
Do you guys have a preference for the way you teach, like when to release outside, when to release inside? Does it depend on what type of route it is, or what type of coverage it is, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. We have some routes where we tell those guys they have to get outside no matter what. And then depending on the depth of the route too, like if I'm running a 12-yard break and in route, I got more time to work in. So if I want to release out and then work back in, I got time to do that. You know what I mean? And then the other thing too is coverage based. Yeah, based off the leverage. If he's giving me a clean release inside and I'm trying to work out, we'll take the clean release inside knowing that I got some time to get back out, and vice versa.
Awesome, Coach. Good answer. Coach Garrigan, slide down to you next and just kind of take us through the week of the running back in terms of, they obviously have a lot of responsibility as well, not just in the run game, but also, with the pass protection. They've got to be in tune with the quarterbacks in terms of the mesh and things like that. Talk about, what that week looks like and what your most important coaching points are.
Absolutely. So in terms of the run game, like Coach Dresner talked about, every day in practice we'll do exchanges with the quarterbacks, and obviously those are all designed based off the run scheme that we're planning on running that week. Later on in the week is really when we get into the protections. About Wednesday when we get to third downs, then I'll send my guys. We'll steal a lot of times, like during special teams. Sometimes my guys aren't involved, so they'll go with the O-line and we'll work our blitz pickups and, like we talked about earlier, some of the tweaks and changes that we have to make in protection, and we'll work all those different types of blitzes that we've seen on tape. We'll draw every single one of them up and rep them to both sides and make sure our guys see every single look that they can get, because again, we can't show them enough in terms of a blitz pickup, and then the same thing in the red zone.
In terms of technique, in pass protection and specifically on blitz pickup, at the high school level we can't cut, so obviously I'm sure there's some times when you guys use the cut block, but if you're not cut blocking, what would you recommend? Just in terms of some of your specific coaching points on the technique of pass blocking of blitzing linebackers.
Oh man, I can get into some real detail with that. Some of the best tips I would say was to close space in terms of between you and a defender. The last thing you want to do is have room for that defender to make room. It's the same thing in my mind as making a tackle. Right? You want to have a specific leverage, right? And obviously that leverage meaning keeping the quarterback to your inside, closing space in between, but at the same time being able to close space, but then having balance, right? Wanting to have a base, have balance. I don't want to lean too far forward. I don't want to have my feet too narrow where I can get knocked over. I don't want to be too wide. It's that perfect feet under your shoulders. And then again, having that nice arch in your back, hands inside, and just ready to strike. Like I said, I can get in more detail, but that we'll be here all night, Coach, if we talk about pass pro.
And your running back fundamentals clinic was awesome too, by the way. The guys who are on here now, if you didn't get a chance to see that, go back and check it out. It was good stuff. Coach Deneke, let's talk about the line for a minute. In terms of those guys, let's talk about run blocking for a minute. In terms of run blocking, what are some of maybe the top drill or two drills that you use with those guys to emphasize the techniques that you guys use the most?
Well, the two things we're going to do every Tuesday, no matter what, is we're going to get on the boards and go through whatever steps we're doing for that week. We usually do that during the first special teams period, right out of stretch. So if we're running inside, outside zone and gap scheme, we're going to go through those steps. If we're using other schemes such as pin, pull, draw, any sort of man scheme, we're going to add on to that. But we'll carry inside, outside zone and duo every week. So we'll make sure we hit the boards. We're also going to hit the Crowther sled to work on our combos. And then we usually do that before we get together with the tight ends. We'll do a quick combo period with them based on what we're going to need that week. And those can either be 2 or 3 man combos. So that's what we're going to work every week. We always try and find some time to do one-on-one pass rush with the defensive line to keep working our pass technique. That's when we get a lot of that technique work done, is we're going to work our technique in one-on-one pass rush. We'll try and steal a little bit of time in Indy on Tuesdays, but most of that's going to be on Wednesdays. We're getting into a more heavy third down period. And then we're going to use a lot of walkthrough time. We're never sitting still. We walk through twice before every practice. We'll do one on our own after our meeting. We get out about 20 minutes before practice starts. And then, like I mentioned, we do a second one with the backs and tight ends as a pressure walkthrough. And then I always try and walk every period before we do it. It's just something I feel is very important. I never want to try and surprise the guys at practice. We're going to go through every look that we're getting. Obviously, I'm not telling them when it's coming, but they're going to know what to expect and why, because communication is a huge part of what we do. We have to know if they go from a shade to a 2-eye or vice versa, how we need to adjust all of our schemes. If the mic widens from a 10 to a 30, what does that mean for us? So we're going to let them see these looks multiple times before we get to the team rep to give them the best chance of success. Because we don't get a ton of reps. I think Coach Drez and I hashed it out, including our Friday walkthrough. What do we get, Coach? Like 60 team reps?
Yeah.
During the course of the week, and that's run, that's inside run, that's skelly, that's team. When you break it down, if we get each run 2 to 3 times, we're pretty lucky. So we got to steal reps in other ways, and I always want them to feel prepared. If there's anything unique or something we haven't seen before, we're going to spend a little bit more time walking through. And then, like Coach Water was saying, our individual is not very long. We steal a little bit of extra time during special teams, but even during Skelly and things like that, our scouts are down doing inside run with the defense. So we don't get that time. That's kind of our walk and talk period. We'll probably have 7 to 8 guys, and I can get in on a look, and we can go over a few more specific things. But, we're just trying to steal reps however we can. But those are the things that we're going to do every week, going back to the drills. We're going to get on the boards. We're going to hit the Crowther. We're going to do combos, and we're going to do one-on-one pass rush.
How do you budget the reps between the first team guys and the second team guys? Like, how many guys typically get, reps with the ones over the week of practice that aren't the ones necessarily? And just how do you prepare in case you need a substitution for any reason in the game?
It's hard because, like I said, there's only so many reps. And, I would say at least for the run game, we're about 75% pressure in practice. I know by week 2 they can line up against an over defense and run the play. I don't need to see that. With the few amount of reps that we get, we got to make sure we get as many pressure looks as we can. So I don't want these, I want the ones to get as many reps as they can. We don't do a platoon system. It's not really ones and twos. Our 6th man plays both center and guard. So he's going to get some reps and bump someone out. The center will go to guard or the guard will go to center. I'll throw the 3rd tackle in and give him 2 reps on the left side, 2 reps on the right side, just to give these guys a breather. But I think we get 12 to 16 reps in a team period. So I'd say the ones are getting 10 to 12, and then sprinkling probably the top 7 to 8 in. There's the 9th and 10th man probably are only getting 1 to 2 reps every day just to make sure those guys get a breather. But it's hard. It's very hard to balance. It's some I struggle with, and some I'm always trying to, get better at, making sure these twos get enough reps. Now, the good thing with us is our six man's our six man. So no matter who goes down, the same guy's going in, and we'll just shuffle them around. So that makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to get 10 guys full reps. But that's the best way to do it is one goes in, it's not one out. You shuffle everything else up. You get your, different groups in there so you can communicate with different people.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks. Coach Dre is going to come to you next. Talk a little bit about the quarterbacks during the week and how their time is kind of budgeted between some drill work, they're throwing, their run reads, their RPO work, everything that you kind of have to put into the game plan, in terms of your on-field practice time. How do you navigate that?
I think the biggest thing for the quarterbacks, and I think this is kind of something that I brought everywhere, and I think most quarterbacks do this by now, is we have to get out to practice 15 minutes before it starts. Our quarterback last year, before Joe went down, Chris Ferguson, he was out there 25 minutes before practice. So I could never beat him out to practice. At least 15 minutes. It's going to take, our guy last year was 18 years old, so he felt like he could just throw a ball one time and he was ready to go. But really for 15 minutes, 5 minutes of those is, you better be ready to go by the time practice comes. Well, 15 minutes, half of that is going to be spent on getting loose. And then if we can have a chance, what I'd like to implement this year is when we do come together with the centers before practice to get snaps, I'm going to start to work into situations, before practice. I want them to take a knee. I want them to spike the ball. I want them to take it, all these things where we really don't rep unless that happens on a Thursday or Friday if we have time. But I'm going to start working those in. I got about 15 things I'd like them to do in a QB center situation. And on top of that, I'd like them to get the footwork for the day. So if it's a 3-step drop day, it's a lot of, 1-step throws. Great. That's easy. But I try to give them the list of things before we go out there so that at least they're comfortable with that footwork. We can go ahead and do it. After the quarterback center, we do have a lot of individual time during practice. If we have 25 minutes, we do spend probably 20 minutes of it with each position group. If it's with the running backs, that's when we get a chance to work our RPOs. If we're going to work the ride, we're going to work the decision. Whether it's me or Coach Garrigan playing the defensive end, now that we've morphed into more of a zone read system, that takes some time. We had multiple missed reads in practice at the beginning of the week, but as you get towards the end of the week and you start to get a feel for how every end plays it, some are upfield rushers, some are sit and squeeze, some like to attack the mesh. And each team is different. So you have to make sure they see that over and over again to be ready for that. Some happens quick. Some happens a little bit later, on the ride. So, with that, we go to each position group and we work with the tight ends on their routes for the week, the receivers on their routes for the week. And anytime that we can fit in, beginning of the week is always heavy footwork. Towards the end of the week, it's more, whether it's situational, it's scramble drill. It's screen drops, it's red zone information. But they're asked to do a lot in the film room. So after practice, they've already watched the practice for the most part once it goes up, which is the same as most guys. We have guys that love football. So most of the guys have already watched it. We're going to touch on it because for us in the middle of a game week, if we're spending 45 minutes watching the previous practice, the morning of the practice, well, now you're focusing on something that already happened. We need to correct it in a potentially a cut up or a playlist and then move on to the next looks of the week. So our first meeting, going back, is always going to be the top coverages and blitzes for the week. We'll look at them. We'll feel confident with them. We'll see them. And then as we get more, it's always the film that we watch is very situational. It's very specific. Here's our third down looks. Here's our red zone looks. And you got to give them enough information, but enough for him to be dangerous and execute on game day. There's a lot of other things that I'd like them to know that really, is more of an off-season deal. But as long as they're able to go out and execute their 12 to 15 plays of practice each day, that's a win.
I know when I came up in August, I think Ferguson was on the field at least 25 minutes before anybody else even came out there.
Yeah.
Just working and going at it through all sorts of different stuff. So
he does stuff I've never seen before.
It was fun to watch, actually. A lot of stuff I hadn't seen either. And you can tell he likes to work at it. So
Yeah.
How do you budget your time between, obviously if you have to go to a backup quarterback, and you guys had to do it for, obviously an extended period, this year, but game to game, you want to be prepared if that other guy has to go in. So
Yeah.
how do you budget the time between the first, second, and maybe even the third quarterback throughout the week?
Yeah, well, I think they all need to get reps. So that's the first thing. They all need to touch the ball in practice. They all need to use the cadence. They all need to work with all the running backs. The receiver work that they get is going to be very individual based. It's going to be in our drills and our routes on air. If we have a 16 play team period, the starter is going 10 plays. And it's usually the first 10, and primarily the second guy is going to get the next 4 to 5. And if we have a chance, the third guy will get that last rep or two. But, kind of piggyback off of what Coach Deneke said, it's primarily the same offensive line as you go. So if he needs to work with another center, he's going to do that pre-practice. And we talked to the receivers coach about that too, is get your second group in with the starting quarterback. He's going the first 10 plays. So make sure you get 5 with the ones, 5 with the twos. He'll go with all of them. And it's the same with the running backs. We'd like to see them all go with the starting quarterback, and the backup quarterback's just not going to get the rep with some of the starting receivers. And that is what it is. A lot of that has to get done in the 50 to 70 throws that they're throwing pre-practice or during individual drills. So the week that Joe took over, it was about the second quarter, halftime of our Richmond game. He had taken probably 25 reps in practice in that week. Most of them were Skelly reps, a couple of them being team reps. He hopped on the phones. I knew the reps that he had taken during the week of practice, and just basically went down the play sheet. And Coach Waters remembers this. Hey, here's the play. You good? He'll say, yep, I'm good. And so really, we crossed out a bunch of things that week. But as the week went on, his menu got bigger, and the more reps he got at it, it was much better. But it's always tough to manage those guys. But the starter's going to get the reps, and the other guys, you got to stand behind them. Literally, if you watch our film, if you got Chris Ferguson was going, Joe was behind him, and our third string quarterback was behind him, running the same exact play on air. So those are the reps that they're getting, kind of that don't even count as reps, that are good for them. And it was the same thing when Joe was getting reps. Chris, even as a starter at the time, was going it, doing it on air, but right behind him. All the footwork, and sometimes you can see on film, one guy's looking one way, one guy's looking the other way, and sometimes I'll catch him like, hey, you're doing this on air and you're wrong. So that's always a way to get them another rep. So yes, they get a couple live. Some of those have to be walked through.
Do you have a certain number of throws you kind of, do you guys keep them on a pitch count for the week or anything like that with the quarterbacks?
Right now, it's a big pitch count. Like if we were in the spring, we'd say, we were throwing a ton of balls, so I'm keeping track of how many they're throwing. I count every ball that they throw. And really leave it up to them to see how they feel. But we don't have necessarily a pitch count, because one day is we're not throwing a ton of balls. The second day, maybe we are. And then the third day, we're not being a red zone day. So it really works out. Never had an issue with quarterbacks having dead arms, but it's also the recovery piece. If guys aren't doing what they need to do, getting the ice and the stretches after practice, they are going to be sore. And then at that point, we would manage it. But I have a pretty good idea. If I'm repping a deep ball for, our first string guy, I'm probably not going to give him the deep ball the rest of practice. And so we are cognizant of that, especially including all the reps that we do on air with the receivers. Like, hey, he threw 2 post balls. He's got 1 more in team, and that's it. So subconsciously, I think I'm tracking that. We've never had an issue, but you definitely are mindful of it.
Just going back to the situations in pre-practice with the centers, can you guys spike it from the shotgun now or no? They changed that rule in high school this year. Can you guys do it?
I
Yes,
think you can. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Is that new to you guys as well?
I think Coach Charlton would have a heart attack if we ever had to do that. But if I was losing. We just won the CAA against Elon in 2018, and I was losing my mind because we had to take a knee from the gun. We lost 5 rushing yards.
Yeah.
I will say we always take a knee from the gun, and usually the starting quarterback wants the backup to come in, so it doesn't nail his rushing attempts or whatever. But I just because we're always in the gun, going into center, we're more likely to Sure, fumbling. So I'm kind of pumped that we can spike it from the shotgun now too.
Yeah, I think the college game you've been able to do it for since like 2014 maybe. It's been a
I
while.
didn't know that.
I haven't seen it though. I haven't seen it done yet.
Most people will do it under center.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Coach Drez, I had somebody texted me a question for you, and it was something I wanted to talk about anyway tonight. But I want to talk about RPOs for a minute.
What are those?
Coach Denicky did a good job talking on those the other day too. But number one, do you use the tight ends at all in the RPO game, or is it primarily just the wideouts and the slots?
Say that question again. You cut out there really quick.
Do you use the tight ends in the RPO game at all?
Not enough.
Yeah, well,
Not enough.
I think I have in the past. I mean, I think it adds another element to it. We always rep the bends, with the tight end. Coach would say we rep it a lot. We actually never ran it. But there primarily, I would say, if we're going to install, we have 40 run plays on the plan for the week. 22 of them have RPO tags. 21 of them are for the receivers, and if we have one that week for the tight end, it's usually a dump or a bend or something like that, but primarily receivers.
When you guys are using that, Coach Waters, do you teach anything different on the release for the tight end because it's an RPO? Is he given, any sort of different look, or is he just trying to work for the best release that he can?
But I give him the kind of the freedom of fastest release. The big thing I talk about is the depth. I don't give them a yardage like 8 to 10 yards. I tell them when they get through the under coverage. So once they pass those linebackers on the second level, then they're going to start to bend. When that window open up for the quarterbacks. That's kind of the key coaching point I have.
Coach Garrigan, in terms of the running backs in the RPO game, what's your coaching point to those guys? I mean, they might get the ball, they might not. I know some of them are pre-snap, but the ones that happen like during the play, what are your coaching points to those guys on that?
It's run at the same. Understand that it's an RPO, but nothing in terms of our assignment should change. My eyes, what I tell my guys is my footwork, my aiming point, my read are going to remain the same regardless. I'm thinking I'm getting the ball. There are some small detail things in terms of scheme, in terms of like, hey, if I don't get the ball, I'll tell them which direction to go in order to create some space for the quarterback. But other than that, they're in their mind, they're thinking, hey, I'm getting the football. Everything remains the same.
Are they more inclined, if they don't get the ball, would you prefer to see them then turn into a blocker, or would you prefer to see them just continue to carry out a fake?
See, it depends on the scheme. So like, say we're running inside zone. I actually took this from the Eagles, but what Deuce Staley was telling these guys, what I thought was really interesting, and I ended up taking was when we're running inside zone, well, that path is supposed to end up winding back to the backside. Well, if I'm winding back to the backside, well, I'm bringing the backers potentially with me. So what I tell them is that the detach, if it's inside zone to the right, instead of winding back, take a hard right and run to the edge to create that separation. Maybe you steal one or two backers, then you're creating a bigger lane for the Q. If he's to pull it or, like a slant coming in from that side. So what I tell them is like, it's specific in terms of run speed, definitely, but that's just an example right there for you.
And Coach Denicky, in terms of the linemen up front, what changes for them, if anything, on an RPO play? Is there different coaching points? Nothing?
They have no idea if it's an RPO, a handoff. We have not had an issue with any linemen downfield. I don't think we're not holding and chucking anything deep on an RPO. They're all pretty much catching, pulling throws. But they don't get the RPO signal. It's kind of nice with our signal operation. I signal to them so I can give them whatever I want, even if it's not exactly the play call. So they don't know one way or another. Our center's kind of can be a little bit of a wise ass, and he has no idea why it's thrown. Sometimes, they're blocking for the back, and all of a sudden they see Andre running 20 yards downfield, has no idea what happened.
So in terms of the backside tackle on that, so he would, like, if it was inside zone to the right and I'm the left tackle, I'm blocking that the same way, whether it's an RPO or not?
Yep. Because, we get to meet with the referees preseason. What they've always told me when I ask about it, and this goes back to where we were pretty heavy, deep RPO at Nevada, where we were throwing hole shots and go balls. They're not going to throw it unless they, at the same time, and when the ball is thrown, they can also see the lineman downfield. So if they don't have the ball and that specific lineman in their vision, they're not going to throw the flag. And that 2 and 3 yard buffer seems to get deeper every year. I remember BYU with Taysom Hill was running stick draw, and they were throwing the go ball with the center deeper than the umpire, and it wasn't getting called. So we'll never be that bad.
That's awesome. Coach Dresler, in terms of the RPO game and kind of building that into your offense, what are your favorite ones? What do you like? Do you have some that are kind of that pre-snap gift, and then the kind of in-play decision, and just what are your best schemes there? What do you like?
I think each week, hopefully, it's different. It's always we try to find that seventh element in the defense. If it's something that we had a lot of success with last year, were the bends and finding it was the guy. Our quarterback threw it the best. So how do we find a bend this week? Is it a bend from an inside receiver, or maybe it's a single receiver on a free safety, and it's really dependent on that player defensively and what they're trying to do and who that unblocked player is. But last year for us, being 3-by-1, bending the single receiver on the backside was our best bend. We had 190 plus yard completion on it. Really up front, whether it be pin pull, it was inside zone, it was just plays where the quarterback can stay square and get his eyes on the read, which is what we would call, it's a post-snap read. And as soon as the ball's in your hand, okay, post-snap, it's a free safety read. And try to keep it very simple and keep it same as some of the other reads that we have in the plan. Maybe it's a bubble read out of our tight end, our 3-by-1 set, and it's on the rover. So we can say to the quarterback, okay, it's bubble to 3. Quarterback, hey, if the safety is 10 plus yards off the line of scrimmage to the 3-by-1 side, it's a post-snap read on the rover. If he's in cement or his eyes are in the run game, all right, that ball goes out right now to the bubble or whatever else we have out there. So try to, the post-snap reads are always good. One we were going to take a look at this spring, and we spent some time with Minnesota, and something that they do, which I think is really cool, is they'll call their RPO, and if the quarterback knows, okay, it's a free safety read this week, if it's inverted, it's a throw. Well, shit, he inverted pre-snap. Okay, so what the quarterback's going to do is instead of, potentially riding this thing out and we have unblocked players, he made a call to tell everybody, running back and offensive line included, I'm throwing this thing. Let's make it play action. So then it becomes, hey, spend a little bit of extra time on the ride, spend more than you already would, knowing that all I got to do is influence that one player that I already know has been in the position of he's compromised. So now I can spend a little bit of extra time on the read and tell everybody, hey, we're not going downfield. It might take me a little extra time, but I'm throwing this thing, and I need that time.
And you buy the extra time because the linemen then know it's play action, so they can alter what they're going to do, right?
Exactly. So they got it. We're play acting it, and if it was inside zone, maybe the tackle blocks back on the end, and the running back ends up taking the weak side linebacker. So it's the same thing. Everybody's blocked up. We got the mic, we got the will block, and now the quarterback knows, hey, let me influence the one player I have. I'm throwing this thing no matter what. If he's wrong, hey, it's quarterback lead. We're following the running back, and we haven't had that, but it could happen. And then the other thing that I'd like to do we were trying to take a look at it in the spring was, well, there are some times where the quarterback closes his back to a read, and we just keep getting fire off that side, whether it's rover, it's mic pressure, it's strong safety rotation. Well, what do we do now if we want to read that kid at the same time as the quarterback's looking over his back? And it's a funny picture as I'm closed off and I'm looking behind, but we were going to give the quarterback a tag and say, hey, it's 3-by-1 bubble, but we're telling you to read it over your shoulder. It gives him another word to know, okay, I'm not reading anything over here now. It's a third level read. Hey, it's post snap still, but now I can know as the quarterback, my eyes are still over there. So now I can still close my back and still flip and throw to the bubble or whatever else I have over there. So we were going to experiment with that in the spring. But we didn't get to, but I think that's going to be really good for us.
Awesome. Coach Danek, you want to swing back to you? A lot of people, in this clinic season, we've seen a lot about the duo play. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of the run game guys and O-line guys certainly are singing the praises of it for sure. I know it's something you guys like a lot and you're passionate about. So, talk us through the specifics of that play. I know a lot of guys have asked, and maybe Coach Garrigan can touch upon this about, kind of the difference for the running back between inside zone and duo, and just, what's the advantage of duo over inside zone, I guess. So, Coach Deneke, if you want to take that first.
Yeah, duo's been our number one play for 2 years now. It's our bread and butter, game on the line. That's what we're calling. It's really the one play that we're going to search out every week and find 3, 4, 5 ways to run it. It's a gap scheme for us. Some people classify it a little bit different. It's a gap scheme as far as I'm concerned. Easiest way to describe it is power with no pull. It is straight down blocks. You're trying to create a wall front side for the back to either puncture or bounce. It's very similar to zone cutback for old school play. Not too many people run, but it's been really effective for us. So if I can share my screen, which I think I can. Here are some of the coaching points that we use. So duo is a gap scheme. Our rule for any sort of gap scheme is going to be backside gap to linebacker. We give the offensive line a near number aim point. We're still looking to cover color, but I never want my hat to get past the midline. Can you guys all see that, by the way? I kind of lose everybody when I go full screen.
Yeah, we got you, Coach.
All right. For the tight ends, because they don't spend quite as much time in the run game, we give them a midline aim point, telling them to just get number to number and take where it wants to go. For the offensive line, ideally, we still want to create a wall front side with the gap scheme, so we're going to give them a near number aim point. And it's always going to be a middle of 3 key for us, meaning with a 3-backer, 4-down 3-backer, we're going to ID the mic. The front side tackle is ultimately responsible for the mic. So whoever he's working with will also be going to the mic. So basically, everyone needs to know the key. All of our combos are based off of that. The next thing we need to know is my backside gap open or closed? Meaning, is there someone aligned in my backside gap? If there's someone aligned in my backside gap, I block them. I don't assume I have help until someone gives me a combo call. If I don't get a call, I know I don't have help. And then if I do not have anyone in my backside gap, I have to determine if I'm covered or uncovered. Is there a defender on my body? So like I said, if the backside gap is closed, I block the defender in my backside gap. My backside gap is open. I need to determine if I'm covered or uncovered. If I'm covered, I combo with the man front side of me. If I'm uncovered, I combo with the man backside of me. And if you have an open backside gap, that person makes the combo calls. Our footwork, if my backside gap is closed, we don't give them any sort of distance in terms of a step. Width and depth of their steps is determined by the alignment of the defender. We're always going to step with our backside foot first on any gap scheme, no matter what. And we're always going to tell them to lead with their ankle, not their knee. We want to keep good power ankles in our ankles, knees, and hips. So if the ankle's the first thing that moves, it allows for me to keep my knee tucked inside. If I swing my knee out, that's going to put the weight back and open up my hips, not allow me to get vertical on my second step. My second step is a power step. I'm looking to step to the defender's near foot, and it should gain ground. I'm also looking to strike. My hands on my second step should hit the defender at the same time. And then as I create vertical push with my push step, we're looking to go heel to toe. All of our cleats should either be in the ground or all of our cleats should be off the ground. We should never have some cleats in the ground and some cleats off at the same time on the same foot. The coaching point that I use here is don't roll off the front of your foot. Our knees are like pistons. They're driving straight up and down. So we should never be up on our toes. So you can see here, still shot of the first step. I like the step on the right better because the knee stayed tucked inside the ankle as opposed to rolling out here. And on this side, gets a little too far past the midline. Probably would be okay if we had pads on, but you can see here on the right, we have our eyes right to that near number. The second step, right, we have all of our cleats in the ground, knees still tucked inside the ankle with that near number aim point. But on the right, we're standing straight up Even though we have all our cleats in the ground, we have no more power angles. We're straight-legged, so we're not going to create a push. We've let the defender into our body, and our head is crossed that midline. And we're way past our aim point. If our backside gap is open, first step is a tough step. Like I said, it's always a backside foot step first. Pick it up, put it straight back down. Because the man we're comboing with isn't going to make contact till his second step, we don't want to make contact until our second step. So the tough step is a timing step. And then we're going to strike through with our second step and deliver a lazy forearm. We should never fall back into the combo. This step should be vertical, and it needs to gain ground. If the defender is that far off my body, or I'm not going to hit him if I step past vertical, then the man I'm comboing with should be able to handle that on his own. So you can see here just a little bit of footwork. We don't want that first step to gain ground, right? We are going to keep our knee tucked inside here. First step's in place, right? Don't want to swing the forearm behind our body. We want to keep that big surface area right in front of us. But we have to gain ground on the second step, but we still want to be working down the midline. That forearm should strike down the midline. Too far off his body, we're not going to be able to deliver any force. Here on the left, good aim point. We're right down the midline, but you can see here the second step doesn't gain ground, so now we're top heavy. So we got a couple of clips here, and again, I'd be happy to answer any sort of questions we got on it. So just to talk through the play, we have a Sam backer out here. So these are our three threats, Mike, Sam, and Will. So it's a middle of three, would end up being a Mike key. The front side tackle is responsible for the key. In this picture, he's going to combo with the front side guard because his backside gap is open and he is uncovered. If this were a 5 technique on his body, he would combo with the tight end. But because it's a 7 or a 6, he's going to combo with the guard. All right, we want to make sure that we're always giving them help if they're covered because you're more likely to get movement. On the play, it's a one-step indicator. So we talk constantly with these combos, especially with a 2-eye, that we want to keep them into the gaps they're designed to be in. This guard can't overstep a heavy 2-eye because now we're losing leverage to the key. He's going to take a shorter step now where he can possibly gain ground because he's basically on his aim point already by alignment. And he's going to assume, knowing he has help, but he's going to look to drive that 2-eye off the ball. We're going to turn it into a combo if we get any sort of crossface, but if it's a static move, if it's static defense, we want to keep that in the A gap so the tackle can take one step, see that it's secured, and climb to the key. Same thing here on the backside. This guard is going to keep that backside 3 technique in the B gap. Center has a one-step indicator, and he's climbing to the minus, or the first thing backside of the key. And then we really don't run this too often with the closed backside, but this tackle tight end combo is going to go to 2 minus the key. So we run it out of 11 and 12 personnel. Whoever, the first man outside of the inline tight end is responsible for the plus. So that can be a wing if we're in tight end wing. Here it's a slot. It's mostly run out of 3x1 sets. We've done a little out of 2x2, but almost exclusively from either under center or the pistol. So you can see here, good one-step indicator by the right tackle. He sees that the 2-eye is secured. Same by the center. Both guards do a good job of keeping their defensive tackles in their gaps and creating a good vertical surge off the football. And then it's a nice job by the tight end getting to his midline. Right? Need to get his right hand inside. He does a really good job controlling that 7 technique. So again, we talk about we're going to find ways to run the play. We do it quite a bit out of unbalanced formations. So here, the corner kicks into the box. So now it becomes a will key. Here's our plus, here's our minus. So the front side tackle is still responsible for the key. Again, he's going to combo with this guard, but now his backside gap is closed. Guard's backside gap is open, but he is covered, meaning there's a 3 technique on his body. So he's going to combo with the man front side. We'll have this guard tackle combo to the key. The center guard combo backside goes to the minus. Backside tackle has a closed backside gap, and he doesn't get a combo call, so he knows he's on his own. And then we're going to have a tight end wing combo here to the plus. So again, really nice job by the tight end, working down the midline, creating vertical push. We get a really strong combo by the right guard and tackle. Excellent timing by the right guard. If we get a plug, we need to change our tempo and get off and stalemate that. We can't allow it to leak through. And then Coach Garrigan can talk a little bit about more about this. But for the back, it is a Mike read. So if that Mike plugs like he does here, the back's going to look to bounce. If the Mike plays over the top, he's going to look to stick it up inside. And then once the Mike plays over the top, he'll get his eyes back to the minus, right? And that's when he can take the back door. So, like I said, it's really become our best play. We prefer it to zone because we're better at it. It's as simple as that. For whatever reason, our guys are more confident. They're more aggressive because they think it's a gap scheme. Whatever the psychology behind it is, they know that we can run this play. Coach Dresner brought something. This past year we did it called our non-negotiables for each position group. And basically, what are the 3 to 4 things that everyone in the position has to be able to do? And the O-line the last 2 years has always come back. Number 1 is effectively run duo. So they take great pride in it. They know it's their play. And for whatever reason, we've had some backs that can run it. It takes some time. We weren't great at it early. When I took over, like in the spring, it was just okay. But it's really a nice compliment for the 2 things that we do best, because our complement to it is outside zone. So when it's gap scheme, those defensive linemen, it's hard for them to tell whether it's inside zone or duo. They're very similar. It's really just about the back's path and what his reads are. So we got away from running as much inside zone, and now it's outside zone, because instead of combo, now it's combo, oh, I'm reached out the opposite way. So that's why another reason why we keep it in the pistol and under center is those are my favorite ways to run outside zone as well. So they end up being really nice complements to each other.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you prefer to be in the pistol for those?
I prefer it under center. We got much better at it out of the pistol. We were able to do a little bit of RPOs with it. Basically, it turns into inside zone at that point. For whatever reason, I think it just times up better. The backs can be a little bit more patient. I like to run under center, but we found different ways to run it. LSU ran it almost exclusively offset. We did a little bit true same side action. There's plenty of ways to do it. It's probably been most effective for us under center, but we were looking to, again, we lost a lot of reps this spring. Looking to expand on it. Look to more RPOs. We're going to change our footwork slightly on it. So we'll have to see how we adjust once we get back.
So if you're running that with an offset tailback, you would put him on the same side as the call?
Yeah.
So right, the tail would be on the right?
Right. So, then it almost looks like inside zone. Our power play will run exclusively same side to keep him downhill. So it's a little hard for him if he needs to cut it all the way back to the back side. If you're true offset to the opposite side, if you're same side, it lets him keep his shoulders square, and he's basically straight downhill, and he can hit his 3-way read in any way.
And Coach Garrigan, what are you coaching those running backs up on in terms of the read and their initial path and then the read as they attack it?
Yeah, I think obviously, I think what makes this play and then really the biggest difference between inside zone and duo is definitely his path, because we really want to be able to press that A gap on the front side, which allows those backers to stay put, giving time for the double teams to work up to the next level. As we do that, we want to, so when we run it out of the pistol, we want to take a lateral, a slight lateral step. Big old Roddy right on the stairs next to me. Shut up. So when I'm out of the pistol, I want to take a slight lateral step, which we call a J step, but it's a similar, very similar footwork to our inside zone. We just want to speed it up because the play is going to hit a little bit quicker. But we're going to take this lateral step, but I am overemphasizing keep your shoulders square and really hit that A gap. Look to the A gap, look to the A gap, because again, we want those backers to stay put, allowing those double teams to get up to the next level, and then we know that the home run shot is out the front door. So we want to press, and then once that edge collapses, we're looking for that, like I said, that home run shot. We're reading that open gap inside to front side. Like Coach Deneke had mentioned, if those backers, and this is when it becomes a feel play, because if that Mike starts sliding over, he knows what we're doing, because all of a sudden we get in that condensed split on the front side. That backer starts cheating over the top. Okay, well, now my guy's going to read it. Press. Okay, he's falling over the top. Now that's going to hit on the backside. So that's when you really get the three-way. So really, it's truly that A gap downhill to the front side. And then again, if we're feeling that Mike sliding over and that Will sliding over, all right, that's when it's going to hit on the backside.
Is he doing it more by feel, or has he actually got his eyes on somebody?
He's got his eyes on the mic to start off. And then again, pre-snap, you can tell when teams have schemed it up and they start sliding over to the front side. Then we're like, hey, if that Mike starts sliding over, then my eyes are going to move quicker to that Will.
Yep. Coach Deneke, how would the rules apply to a 3-4 scheme?
They really don't change. We're still identifying the key for the tackle. Let me pull up some clips. I'm sure we got some here. But the rules don't change. It just affects our combos. Hold on, let me just share again here. So that's the beauty of the play, is it adjusts very easy. Like William & Mary will bounce between a 3- and 4-man front. And we found a way to run it where it's good against anything. So again, we're still going to key. It turns into a play side inside key versus an odd front. So we're still keying for that play side tackle. In this case, that slot receiver to the boundary is responsible for the overhang. And now we're still backside gap to linebacker. So we're going to take this center guard combo all the way backside, and then this guard tackle combo can actually work all the way out to the field overhang, which I think they may have messed up in this clip. We throw it before you can realize that. Again, this is off of my RPO tape. You know, we wanted to isolate one of our better receivers to the field. This guy's, you know, almost 10 yards off, so we're going to take that space with it. If you got a quarterback, we're under center, but if he can catch and throw, Joe's got a really quick release, and we get out and get a nice gain. So, you know, most people will say they like it best versus the, you know, a balanced 3-4 or an under front. We've had some good success against Richmond and a few other teams running to the over front, but it's about finding leverage to the mic. If your combo doesn't have leverage, if your angles are off, the play is no good. You should run zone the other way.
So the tight end's going to combo with the play side tackle on that one, and they're going to work together for the tackle and the play side mic.
Yep. They're working together for the key. The front side guard and center, we're working for the minus. And then, like I said, we had numbers, so we could take that backside combo all the way out to the field overhang.
Awesome. Coach Dresden, I want to slide over for you for the last one, and then we'll open it up and let some guys ask some questions. You know, it in a lot of, at least in my research, and it seems like it's going this way in terms of defenses. It seems like match quarters is a pretty, you know, hot thing going on right now in terms of in terms of coverage, especially a lot of 3-4 teams seem to be going to it. What are your favorite ways to attack that match quarters coverage?
I'd play match quarters if I were defense. For us, as a quarterback, you're always looking for access. You're always looking for, recognizing that piece from a defense. And if you don't have that, well, that kind of puts you in an uncomfortable position. So, for us, we look at as a match quarters team as one-on-ones, really across the board. So, depending on what formations we feel like, we can isolate them. If it's 2-by-2 and we know our receivers are one-on-one on the outside, well, that's great for us. Our most successful drop back play in 2-by-2 is run those guys off and isolate the what we would call the gray area, the alley players. Maybe it's a Sam linebacker or it's a Will linebacker with an option. So we give those guys, basically we put our best player in the slot. We've run off the guys on the outside. Those guys are gone, and you got a ton of surface area, ton of space to run basically a 6 to 8 yard option route where the receivers got either way to work. And so the quarterback knows, again, that's a great beater for that. Let me hang on that option. Then let me go to the backside option as my progression, and knowing that those guys are always going to be one-on-one on islands. So that's one thing we really like to do. The look that we get in 3-by-1 a lot of the time in match quarters is, when they flow the backside safety. They take the free, they basically put him over the ball, and they say, he's keying 3 vertical. So that's great. Let's run 3 vertical and let's take him over. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, it's a tight end, and we don't tell them this, but they run vertical and they do their job and they take the free.
You know that,
Kevin? No idea. He didn't know. No, I'm sure he did. But, we'd run something where, again, our thought is, how do we get our matchup? So that becomes our single receiver matchup. And so we'll give him an individual concept where, whether it's a deep stop route or it's a deep out concept, even if it's a slant where we know it's going to, again, be a true one-on-one concept there. And I think addition to that, after our option route, it's what we would call part of our drive series, where in 3-by-1, we know it's match quarters. Well, we're going to take our single receiver backside in 3-by-1, whether it be a tight end or a receiver. We condense their split, knowing that, again, they're matched on the quarters. And how do we get the will match up? Well, it's great. We put them on the running back. So I'll draw that one up really quick. I think I can. Maybe I can't. I don't know if it's letting me. Oh, wait. Let's see. I don't know if I can draw. Can anybody draw on theirs? For some reason, I'm not giving me an option.
No, I can't.
Okay, no worries. So in 3-by-1, the one that we really like, we call it car, and basically we play off the flow safety. What we would say, he's keying 3. We run him on some sort of deep in route or deep vertical where we know he'll pull him. We take our single receiver and run kind of like a bang glance post, widen himself enough away from that kid where we can say, hey, quarterback, you got an outside leverage or some sort of head up corner. Let's see if we can bang that glance. And then we have our back combination out of the backfield running it, what we would call a rail route or a win route down the numbers. And again, it's either matchup on our single receiver or it's the matchup on the will that we've already out leveraged. And then we bring the whole concept back over to the quarterback's vision with in routes coming back all the way across so he can read that thing out 1 to 2 and then all the way back through the progression. So like a drive concept. Those would be our 2 big ones. Just trying to isolate the outside receivers. If we can, again, do it with tight ends and bring tight ends in the game, bringing those free and those strong down even more so that we can try to get over the top of them. We really like pin concepts where we can run one of those tight ends on an end and we rip the post over the top, knowing that, again, they're reading 2 vertical. They're driving those deep in routes. So let's give ourselves a shot to get over the top on a corner that's now normally he's a quarters player. Now he's got to play the entire field. And we have guys on the outside that are just, as long as we could find a way to run that play, which it was in my quarterback presentation, our guy likes to throw posts. We have 2 guys that can run posts. So that's sometimes the best way to beat those quarters teams. Those 3, drop back plays.
I want to ask you, just to follow up on that one, in terms of an option route, what do you, like, you're going to isolate that slot on that inside safety. How are you coaching up that receiver? And then also, what are you telling the quarterback?
Okay, so the option route, it's a 6-yard route in man coverage. it's an 8-yard route in zone coverage. And if it's start with the zone aspect, he needs to know who he's running the route off of. In a two high defense, he's running it off the outside, whether it be the Sam or the Rover. He knows that. His rule is he must stem him up, square him up on his chest. He's got to split his numbers. He's got to climb to his depth. If it's zone and they continue to bail off of you, get to 8 yards and just sit. And that's really becomes a stop route at 8 yards. If it's man, it's the same rule. Let me stem me up. If he collisions me underneath the 6-yard threshold, I have to stair climb him, get on top of him. And then after I feel his leverage, whether it be, again, inside or outside, I have the right to the middle of the field as the option runner. I'm going to lean and stick opposite and be flat out of my break. If it's an outside leverage, Sam, well, I'm still going to stem him up, and I'm probably going to work inside away from his leverage. But as a quarterback, it's a 3-step drop in balance. You're balanced in the pocket. Based off the pre-snap, you're going to anticipate his cut, but you're going to let him win. And then after you see the break, that's when the ball comes out. If it's 50-50, which it happens to be a lot, where the kid's just not giving you a break either way, always break inside. Always break to the middle of the field. Easier throw to the quarterback. It's a shorter throw. And then really it's the same rules for the guy opposite him when we always complement it with a backside option, who is the first guy opposite the ball. He runs it the same way off the will or the free safety, but he has no right to the middle of the field. He can only sit or work out because we let the option route runner take the entire field. And that would be the second read in the quarterback's progression.
And when you guys rep that in practice, other than repping it in Skelly and team, like you guys do that in 1v1s or?
So we try out. It's a tryout route. We had one guy that can do it pretty. It's got to be consistent. Like if you're running it at different depths and different breaks every single time, quarterback has no idea what you're doing. So that's a 1v1 route. That's a routes on air route. But at the end of the day, you're going to have 1 to 2 guys that run it effectively. Those are the guys that you formation. You motion them into that position to run it, so that we don't have to run it with 12 guys. Our entire crew, and get the quarterback to feel them all out. One guy does the job, and we put that kid in position to do it on game day.
I like that. Before we open it up to questions, I had one more for Coach Deneke. Pass protection against a 3-4 blitz team. How are you scheming that up, and what are you telling your guys there? Like they can bring pressure inside, they can bring pressure from the edge, they can twist. What are you guys doing there?
So we're trying to figure out what their most popular patterns are, and figure out a way to get our 5 on their 5 as much as possible. Our backs are involved in the pass game, so when we can, we want to get them out. So we have several different ways we can slide it. We can split the defense and put the back inside. We can put the back on an outside backer. So we're going to figure out what we're expecting that week and try and get our best pass protectors, which would be the offensive line, on their most, what we call the known blitzers. Most teams they're not going to bring everybody. Even when they bring different patterns, a lot of them are going to move guys around. So we're going to try and put the back on the least common of their blitzers. And we're going to devise a protection plan, whether it's a half slide, whether it's a man pro. Our odd rules will change based on week, and we all know going into that first practice on Tuesday how we're going to handle it. And we're all on the same page, and we have decently long list of calls and hand signals where if we need to change something, we can get that to the back. But it's all about what they're going to do and who the known blitzers are. And we're going to try and get our guys on those blitzers.
Awesome. That was fantastic. That's I can't tell you what a pleasure it is for me to just sit here in my living room and fire questions at the UMaine offense and defense staff over the last couple of weeks, and for these guys to be able to sit and watch this and go back and watch it. It's just it's awesome that you guys have cooperated like this, and you guys have just been flat out great in every single clinic and session. So I really appreciate it. If guys want to throw on their cameras and mics and come on and get some questions with these guys before we let them go, come on in, fellas. Coach Goff, we'll start with you.
Let's do it. Who's calling the plays at UMaine?
Coach Charlton calls the plays.
Coach Charles, that's your head coach there?
Yep.
Cool. I think that probably answers my second question. I was going to ask if that play caller was on the field or up top in the booth.
Yeah, he's on the field.
Luckily.
Yeah, when he was the coordinator in 18, he called it from up top. But obviously he's on the field now.
Cool. Does Coach Charlton use a script to start the game with?
Yeah, we do. You know, that's kind of our Friday activity after we've had the week of practice. We put 10 to 12 openers. You know, plays that we know we have to get run more so than a script that we're going to follow. You know, if it's normal down situation, you know, we'll probably be able to stick to it for the most part. But if we end up in something that's unique to us, then we'll get into our other part of the script. But we'll have, you know, 10 to 12 to 15 plays, you know, openers that we know, you know, we have to get through that game.
Yeah.
Cool.
More of a menu than a script.
In terms of your rotations, is that based on formation? Is it based on one coach handling who they want in the game at that particular time? How do the rotations work?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's a kind of a Saturday morning deal, you know, making sure that whether we go through each position coach. So obviously quarterback, he's starting great. He's the guy. Running back, you know, we primarily we're going to see these two guys on first and second down. Coach Gary can be like, hey, I'm going to work in so-and-so on third down. And we'll be, okay, great. Sounds good. Coach Waters, like, hey, I got Kevin, I got Sean. They're working mostly first and second down. You know, I'm going to keep Sean in for the primarily, you know, on third down as well. So we have an idea, you know, Coach Charlton, he deals with the entire game. So, you know, for the most part, we just got to make sure that the right guys are on the field. You know, receiver wise, it's always, we have 4 to 5 guys that primarily play the entire game. If they need to come out, they come out. Otherwise, we ride with those guys.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that real quick is we'll tag, like if Kevin was the best at running pin pull that week, or he's our best pin pull runner at tight end, I would tag 82Y on the call sheet. So Coach Charlton would know, all right, I got to get him in the game and call it out.
Similar to running backs as well. And like we had 2 guys who were very different backs. You know, for Fitzpatrick's your downhill physical back. So it's like we're going to give him some more of the gap schemes as opposed to the outside zones, which we gave to Emmanuel Reed. I mean, it depends on the flow of the game and then also health-wise too. You know, I mean, who can take them into carries? So.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. One final question pertaining to that thread there. When Coach Charlton's in his play calling during any offensive series, how many of you coaches can, you know, chime in via the headset and give a little bit of input on maybe what you're seeing or what you're thinking, or does that take place after the offensive series ends? How does that work, and who's communicating with the coach during the offensive play call?
I would say last year, basically Coach Charlton, you know, we'd call the play, the series would be done, and he'd be done. He'd be off. And we would be, you know, primarily it's this group, Coach Flores, our receivers coach, we'd all have our conversations that we have to have. We have an extra headset on the sideline for the quarterback. So it's pretty much a little formula that way. Coach Zenicky goes with the offensive line. And then, you know, any adjustments, anything that we think we need to run the next series really becomes, you know, a conversation that we have. And then we tell him, hey, this is what we got to go with. And hopefully we've done our job during the week. We have some good plays on the call sheet that are decent enough to run.
Nice.
I try to talk as little as possible during the drive. I'm getting better at that. I was not my strength the first year. Just kind of let Coach stay in his groove, and you know, if he asks me something, I'll make sure I have an answer ready. And then, like Coach Drez said, he'll hop off, and I kind of go find him on the sideline if there's something we need to communicate about. But you know, it's pretty quick with him trying to manage the whole game.
Awesome.
Coach Cook, you got a question? No, Coach Soren?
Yeah, this has been great. When you guys do your walkthroughs, what's your priorities? Are you guys talking about assignments there, techniques, your nuances, and are you doing them on air? Are you doing with bags? You got a guy standing there, like, what are you doing?
Pat, you want to talk about yours first?
Yeah, pretty much all of them. We're going to have a look. No bags. No helmets on. We'll have the scout guys giving a look, and we have everything carded. So they're gonna line up in certain defense and either run a certain movement or pressure. And I just want to see those guys communicate based on what they're seeing, whether it's certain leverages, certain alignments from the defense. and then how we're going to pass off the movements once they do it. On Saturday morning before games and sometimes on Fridays, we won't have a look. So I usually just hang out right in front of the center for all the walkthroughs, and I'll give him a front or a situation, or I'll walk by, say, hey, you got a 2-eye, what's that mean? And he'll make his calls based on that. I would say 75%, we have some sort of look and it's carded. Very rarely are we just going to tell them to line up unless it's something I need to go over on the fly. But we try and keep it as organized as possible, get as many reps as we can.
Yeah, skill walkthroughs, I think the difference between the skill is we're usually not giving them a look. We're trying to get as many reps as we can, with the guys that are actually repping those in practice. So those are, the focus of those is literally to hear the play. We will have our signals. We'll do the whole, shebang, and then we'll go out and we'll walk the play. It's really like a 5-yard deal, blow the whistle and just come back and let's do it again. Now, if we're doing it pre-game, which is the night before as a skill group, sometimes we will get some guys out there to just kind of walk through some things, especially with a new quarterback and tendencies on some free safety stuff. But for the most part, we're walking out depths, we're walking releases and stuff like that.
Yeah, much more assignment and adjustment based than technique.
Awesome. Anything else, Coach Thorne? Like he's all good. How about Coach Collins? You got anything?
All set. Thanks.
Coach Solomon?
All set. Thanks, guys.
All right, fellas. Appreciate it again, man. It was that's great stuff. Haven't talked to Coach Charlton in a while, but look forward to seeing him on Friday. So a good chance to talk to some of the head guys around Maine, and we'll get a couple other guys who are going to jump on as well. So looking forward to that, and yeah, appreciate you guys, and hopefully we're all at this back at this soon, and certainly if you guys are going in August, I'll be up to check things out.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. This was great.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Good thought, everybody.
Appreciate it.